Well, hello, everyone. I've got a special guest today, somebody who invented something that's really cool. We just spent about 2.5 hours digesting this gentleman's product, and it's called ICU 360. It's giving you the ability to see all the way around your body with a camera on the back of your helmet. We're gonna be working with him on the marketing and getting a video together. And I couldn't resist but to have him in the studio today to share this with everybody on my show. Welcome to the show, Tom.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. So we understand that this technology applies to 3 verticals. What are they?
Law enforcement, Department of Defense, and civilian usage. It's really a safety device that will fit on your gear, your existing gear, kind of like a GoPro fits to your helmet. We plan to do the same to provide a line of sight from behind you that we've never had. You know, I like to tell people we're always turning around, and every time you turn around, you still can't see behind you. So with this technology, we hope to fix that. At the whole time we're recording data, so it's got a host of different features for different user sets. The civilian version is really targeted towards bicyclists and motorcyclists, you know, again, helmet and agnostic. So, then we also have a support and a user case or user class community from the Department of Defense.
Give me some scenarios like how that would work.
Absolutely. The military has a term, watch my 6, where they have to rely on somebody else typically to do so. There are situations very commonly for the gunner in a Humvee to insertion teams, the last man in line. There's multiple scenarios where these guys are separated from their teams where they need to be a force multiplier having these camera systems. You know, we're creating a hyper-enabled warfighter, the warfighter for the future. I like to say it's almost making us near bionic. These technologies existed in different formats and the components were out there, but we want to bring them together for a system to create a more safer and more lethal for law enforcement and military purposes. In the battle scenario, that could be very valuable. Comparing it to these vehicle camera systems has been quoted by different members of the combatant command community within the Department of Defense as a vital capability. So we're excited about that.
You got some behind you.
Yes.
Let's look at the military one.
This is a prototype that we had started showcasing early on for the Department of Defense. But we also used it to kind of just illustrate the capability of the technology. Let me grab a camera here. So we have different versions we run around with.
I'm sorry, I actually preempted. I want to touch it.
Go for it.
So without it attached, let's just take a look at this here.
You bet.
So we've got, if we're looking at there, so this is the front of it, right?
Yes.
So this is, if I were to put this, pretend that I put it on.
Yes.
It would be a deal where the eyepiece is something like that.
Yes.
And the camera's behind it, which you have in your hand.
Yeah, that would be rear facing.
So imagine, I guess, being able to look forward and then glancing down in the eyepiece and seeing who's behind you.
Having a line of sight behind you.
Incredible. So let's look at the back here.
Yeah. Well, and here's with the camera attached to it.
Right.
What we have here, this wiring and this large eyepiece, this was for a different use case. So this was battle feed information, basically, is what this piece was designed and used for in theater. We met with the developers and we said, listen, we would like to use a camera paired to this to put eyes in the back of the warfighter's head. So this is an early prototype.
Yeah.
And it does, however, show functionality and proof of concept. My path to getting this introduced to the Department of Defense was to introduce it to the SOF community, Special Operations Forces, through US SOCOM. Excuse me. So I was socialized at some events out of Kansas called Encountering Innovations through an SBIR, Small Business Innovation Research Program. It's a 3-phase program, and I had recently gotten under contract by an AFWorks program through the Air Force. But my user community is Special Forces. The Air Force has, and a lot of people don't know this, their own branch of Special Forces through the PJs and AFSOC, an elite group of guys, amazing at what they do. To get them to at least look at the technology and say, we could see this in theater, we would like to have this in our toolbox. This is the kind of stuff that we want to hear, and that's the feedback we're getting. They're excited about the technology.
So the military personnel has seen this, and you've spoken with them?
Multiple different sources. So I've got letters of support from different combatant commands. I've gotten memorandum of understandings, MOUs, from different combatant commands as well.
Okay.
Yes, through to get to phase 2 in the SBIR program, from phase 1, we need those documents in the form of memorandum of understandings from a program manager saying, listen, we want to support the development of this. Along with that, we get 20-year data right protection. So as a small business, it gives me a little added protection along with my intellectual property protection through the U.S. Patent Office to go out and have this developed for the warfighter, because I will have to eventually, probably most likely, align with what they call a large prime.
I couldn't go to the military and say, hey, look what I got. You want to buy it? There's a little more complex than that, right?
Far more complex than that. So you have to find a topic of relevance, and you look for BAAs, these broad agency announcements. I have this widget, and I think it's fantastic for the military, but they don't know anything about it. And the first thing they're probably going to think is, don't give us more crap.
Right.
We don't want more weight. And by the way, has this been tested? Is this going to distract us? So it goes back to, how do we get them to introduce this technology on a small level? And then I go back to the SOF community. They're a very niche.
Almost to test it, have them like a beta test it in an actual unit that they can test it out.
Well, these guys are the elite badasses.
Yeah.
They're not told when to go to bed or when to wake up. They wear what they want. And if they want to have some cool gear that'll enhance their line of sight, make them force multipliers, move them in the direction of a hyper-enabled warfighter, they're going to do it because it's available to them. These other combatant commands will start getting on board because they see the technology has been tested and is now being implemented.
Were you in the military?
I'm not. Wanted to be, didn't happen.
Dude, you're throwing around all sorts of military terms. How did you learn that?
Well, if you don't learn their language, you can't talk to them. I mean, we're not connecting. So for me, when I want to get the attention of this user community, I better learn their language. I better respect how they do business. And it's a fine, delicate balance how to stay engaged with these guys, but not be a burden or a pain in their ass. Excuse my French.
Sure.
Say that.
Yeah.
So, and with that said, you also have to stay relevant with them. So you don't want to, there's a lot of companies with cool
probably
technologies.
Knocking on their doors. And
certainly. So for a guy out of rural Oklahoma to learn the language, to stay connected with these communities, and to get socialized to the point where we have today, is really due to just learning
and research.
Yeah, and you don't stop. You know what I mean?
You become a little obsessed.
Oh, fantastically obsessed. Wear a lot of hats. You know what I mean? And every day it's something new. But you better figure out what you're good at and what you're not good at, and find somebody to do what you can't.
And do you have a day job as well?
Yes, I was a flooring installer for many years. I would buy and sell dilapidated properties and flip them for some extra cash. But and I raised a small family, which was really my favorite thing to do.
Sure.
But throughout day-to-day life, I've always had ideas. I try to solve problems, provide solutions. This particular technology, as I've mentioned before in different interviews, has just stuck with me.
There had to have been the moment of when the idea came to you.
Yeah. I joke around and tell people that I'm just paranoid and too lazy to turn around.
How can I just not have to turn like that?
Right. Since we've been working on it now all day, every day, throughout the day, I can think of how this could be, of so much use.
But there wasn't a one single moment that you went like, aha.
Sure. Well, I just kept having these images of it being used by the military, to the point where it just persistently bugged me, and I started asking questions about, because I'm not a big movie.
Like, surely it's been done before.
Absolutely.
Like, that's what, if you thought of this item, like, I'm sure the government, the military, they got to have this.
Everybody I came in cross with, from movie buffs to people who were into tech in the military, and nobody's said this is indefinitely out there.
That's kind of surprising to me.
Shocking to a lot of people.
That oh my God, really? That doesn't seem like it'd be that difficult, and especially for high tech wartime stuff. I mean, there's got to be so much technology, from putting a bomb to open a door to flying the drones, but not boots on the ground when the guys. So when we were talking about that visual about boots on the ground and these badasses that are walking around trying to accomplish their mission. I'm imagining, you know, there's constantly, you see this like, okay, come on. And they go, I mean, to have the ability to know who's behind you and whether it be friendly or foe,
Sure.
could be the difference between A, life and death.
Absolutely.
Or B, conquering your mission or failing.
100%.
Because of that knowledge. I mean, tell me how you, like the amount of time, how time matters in a situation like that.
Sure. Well, time is very important because for one, you got to go out and talk about it, and you've got it, or you're never going to get it done. You can have what's called analysis paralysis, where you study the thing so long that it never gets off the ground, or you can just get paralysis from fear that if I talk to these people, they're going to copy me, they're going to cheat me.
Okay.
And there's a lot of those things that go on, but you have to push past that. And I suggest people don't go run out and look for all these invent help things and stuff that you see pay to play.
Oh yeah, if you have an invention, call us.
I've never once subscribed to any
Seems
of
so
that.
fishy.
I'm very non-traditional.
Yeah.
I wanted to align partnerships with laboratories and universities. Because I bootstrap and I'm fairly low budget to start this, we look for student projects originally. So,
and the idea is when you had the idea and you started, you know, you realize I need to protect. And you realize there's nothing out there. You have to. I want to patent this.
Oh yes, absolutely. So
then it became, well, now I got to make something to patent.
When I got into patent pending, I was in shock. And we went right out to the Balsner Engineering Center in Siloam Springs, Arkansas, with John Brown University. Very blessed to work with them. They were awesome. And they developed our first prototype, again, as a student project. But what it did is it really got a lot of people interested in the capability, from Harley Davidson through regional conversations and interest in us displaying it at their dealership events.
After you made like the prototype model, but I mean, tell me about like when I'm looking at this and I'm like, where do you buy these at? Where do you get this from?
Yeah.
How did you mount this? I mean, you had to did you start off with just duct tape and?
Well, there's some lucky moments to me. Stars aligned. I went down to a SOFIC convention in Tampa, Florida. This is SOFIC, SOFIC, Special Operations Industrial Force Complex. Something like that. Don't quote me.
Okay.
So we go down there and I'm going through this massive facility, looking at technologies that are just fascinating. And at the very end of the building, I find an eyepiece developer who designed this. And I tell them, well, I need something like this for my system.
What were they? Do you know what they were using it for? Why
Battlefield information. So it would just be coordinates, so they don't airdrop on friendly fire.
And who would have the eyepiece in front of them for what they were doing?
And you'd have and again, don't quote me on this. I'm not in theater, I'm not military, but this was for battlefield. So they would just get coordinates and be able to give out targets that were lased for drop bombing runs.
The people who were
on the ground
would use this eyepiece to get information fed to them.
Yes, get out of the area. Sorties are coming in. They're going to bomb.
But is it through sound and visual, or the visual? Is it like text they're telling them, or
so there's to my.
I know this is not your project. I'm going off tangent a little bit.
And again, I'm going to speculate a little bit. That is what I'm saying is coordinates in the form of numbers and stuff.
I got you.
Yeah, so there would be a communication device.
I got you.
I got you. There's advancements and all that too now. So
and this is what you've used for what trade shows in the field,
right? When I got invited to these Encountering Innovations events with the Kansas SPDC, shout out Alan and Bill.
Yeah,
these guys have these events, and we create these poster boards. Mm-hmm. Technology scouts. High-level guys in the Department of Defense will go out and look at technologies, vet them to see if there's applicability or use cases for the warfighter. And it's not something we just got accepted in right off the bat. You know, this was something for years we've had to court these guys and follow them around and go through their projects and do their things. Finally, we're under contract, but it was as a result of being in this kind of stuff.
You would go to these shows, and you know, you have your booth. Yeah. You had to probably pay for the booth.
In some cases, yes.
But then you got people all around you. We've all been there, and you see, oh, look at all this, look at that. And you said they just had the most awesome looking stuff. They had videos and displays, and then here you are with this at a table.
Yeah. So, and here I am. I mean, it's kind of an odd situation where I have actual physical prototypes they can pick up and look at and play with.
Okay.
But yet I'm still the low budget guy in the building because everybody else has these very polished, very brilliant videos who illustrate the concept of their technology. They had spent a lot of money to do that. I actually hear the ding 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 like the banjo, and then hi, I'm Tom.
Yeah. And I made this thing here. You won't believe what this thing can do. This thing it'll help you in the military and all sorts of things. And people are like, who is this guy? But I like him.
Yeah. Well, my cojones were in a wheelbarrow behind me. They didn't see those.
I mean, the guts it takes to do that and to be willing to say, look. And being, you probably didn't know. You thought there's probably going to be other guys like me. And you get there and you're like, oh no, I'm way underdressed or whatever the case may be.
Oh, big time. So, but at the same time, I also knew that I had something of interest.
This was 5-6 years ago that you started this?
2016, applied for the patents and got to work on the first prototype. Yeah. And while still laying floors, while out of the side of a van when I should have probably been in laying floors, I'm on the phone trying to develop relationships with companies to get on a loaner program for these holographic lenses, which are only loaned out to very large companies.
Tell me about the lenses. This isn't any kind of lens, is it?
No, this is military grade attack eye. This is not something you go buy off the shelf. Again, I am very fortunate, and shout out to Rich Ryan, Matt Voss, the guys at 615, Ted Ricks. You guys, they're amazing. They see a lot of advancements for this technology with what they do, and they had allowed me to go around with these eyepieces to illustrate what I was working on. But at the same time, I'm aware, and the reason I go to these companies is because it's an enhancement and can provide benefits for them as well.
Sure.
So that's kind of where we go with it.
Is this Google Glass?
This was similar to.
All right, so it's a good segue. Let's move this over here.
Okay.
Okay, so now this.
It's a little heavy on the front, so I'll hold it up there.
Okay, all right. So this is looks like he found some shot glasses, maybe
safety glasses, just to kind of illustrate that these don't have to go on anything fancy or special.
I see. So this is probably consumer, for the consumer, not military.
Exactly right. We're going in the direction of consumer markets now. So for law enforcement, there would be forward-facing cameras and QR readers, a far different version than the military version. Mm-hmm. But for the cyclist and motorcyclist, this is a very advanced eyepiece that I'm very excited about. So if we say we want to enhance your line of sight, I damn sure can't block it with something that you can't see through.
Right.
So as we're going to try and find these components over the years, working on this project, meeting this company, finding a path to be able to work with these devices was huge.
So if I were to put these on like this, right?
That's right.
And then this is where the display would be.
That's right
there. Oh, wow. I can see like it's not on right now, of course.
And you can see through it. You and I can engage. We can talk. You can concentrate on everything in front of you.
But then as soon as somebody is behind me, you go to this. I'll tell you, when I was a kid, they had these sunglasses, right? And on the edges of them, they had mirrors. And I thought, this is cool. So when I ride my bike to school, I can see who's behind me. But that's what this kind of reminds me of, because you did have to learn how to adapt to the side angles. Sure. But when we drive, we look in the rearview mirror and we see behind you. But so I'll bet you it becomes an adaptation of use.
Sure.
Where at first there might be people who can pick up things pretty quickly, and other people are like, wait a minute, I chew gum and walk. What? They kind of start, but after a while of doing it, they start getting used to it, and it becomes second nature.
Absolutely. Well, and for the new generation of warfighters coming out, these guys have been raised up on wearable technologies, camera systems, video games.
Sure. Yeah.
So there's a quick adoption to the capability.
You're right. Even with the people who do the
virtual reality.
Oculus virtual reality, they're kind of used to that.
Absolutely.
Kind of strapping stuff to. So is this the helmet that would go onto?
Yeah. So
you'd use?
Yep. And we would just.
Oh, I see. So here's the camera,
and you would dock it. And again, this is just a prototype. The actual production version will be far different.
Right. And so we get this on. And then when it's plugged in, you have a little thing here.
Right. There's a tablet.
But that's it. So I'll tell you what. You made a video, and this made it in the video, didn't it?
It did.
This helmet and these glasses.
It did.
Let's take a look at that video right now. So that was pretty cool, huh? So the guy in the video was where this is the same unit?
Yeah.
And he had this. How did you, so tell me how did,
so, you know,
you just meet the guy and go, hey.
Just, we needed a motorcycle guy and I didn't have him just sitting outside. So we found one. And to make the point of how easily adaptable it was, that older gentleman picked it up, put it on and didn't want to let it go. You know, he liked it. We've had guys that have at demonstration events put it on and walk around and play with it and then come up with totally different use case scenarios and ideas for it. They expand upon this.
That's what's great.
Beyond
To
what
me,
I've
that's
done.
so because you don't have to buy a certain helmet. So you thought about this at first, like maybe I need to get a helmet that has it attached. And then at some point you realize, no, I want existing helmets. From military, police helmets and hats, and people who ride bikes and have their helmets. You figured out I need to attach it to those things.
Yes, there was a language that I tried to adhere to as far as the way I envisioned doing that, simply by the phrase, we want to permeate multiple markets. Then to fit that challenge, how do you do that? It comes down to the mounting process. And so we didn't invent the camera. We didn't invent the holographic lens. Like this project has been likened to the smartphones when Steve Jobs years ago said, listen, this touch screens are out there. All these apps are coming out. We have the phone. Well, just like they did with those technologies that they did not invent altogether, we're doing with these technologies. They exist out there in different parts of the world.
But taking it and putting it into a configuration.
Creating a safety system.
That's the patent part, right? That's where you can take this technology and this technology, and when you combine them and use it for this purpose, that is a unique invention.
Yes. Well, you know, and I mean, come on, look at food. You could take 6 items and make 100 recipes. We could do this with technologies too.
So is this like a Bluetooth or a Wi-Fi? Because I know there's some distance limitation. Okay, so Wi-Fi has a longer distance.
Right. And I'm not an engineer.
Feet. Oh, sure. But like when I got my Bluetooth earbuds on when I'm here at the office and I'm listening to some cool music while I'm editing videos, I actually go to the bathroom with them on and I'm still listening to them and then I hear it going.
You hear fade right.
So So this Wi-Fi gives us more range.
It does, and it was the go-to thing for us to utilize for these proof of concepts. Now, where the technology will go and how it's actually designed, that's for the engineers that we work with to figure out. And
so this is a prototype. It's not like you've got a warehouse full of hundreds or thousands of these. This is yet to be manufactured.
Oh, that's right. We have had opportunities to develop partnerships with different manufacturers who have shown interest, but we just haven't been able to connect the dots. You know, it just hasn't made sense yet. And looking back, I'm glad that those relationships actually didn't go through, because now our partnerships has actually, I think, gone in the path that I had hoped for originally. I wanted to start this off by being socialized in the Department of Defense. It adds to my value and equity. And it adds to my protection when I go to a company. Let's just throw a name out there like Samsung. I've never talked to them. But if I were to, I would have a lot more confidence going to them saying, well, you know, I've also been socialized by the Department of Defense. I've been funded by them. We have matching funds by the state of Oklahoma and 20 years data rights protection.
Now you have my interest. You haven't talked to Sony, have you?
Yeah. So
that's what I would be asking.
I want to make sure that I get some muscle.
Yeah.
From instead of just little old me going in there. That's a time thing. That is a very, I mean, you talk about arduous pain, but
to me, this is the most, this technology in my mind, I'm thinking, gosh, you know, riding bikes, kids could potentially use all sorts of crazy things, right?
Absolutely.
But the most visual application, I think, is military, because how many times are military personnel confronted with not knowing what's behind them?
Sure. We put a lot of emphasis on our weapon systems, and when we talk about weapon systems and the emphasis of that, you go to the cost. What do we fund? What do we pay for those weapon systems? When we should be looking at our most valuable assets, the human factor, the warfighter. For example, these devices are going to go on AFSOC Special Forces guys, we hope soon, and SOF community. Air Force pilots, those guys are tens of millions of dollars invested in those guys.
Mm-hmm.
There's only one real community who is more investments in them, and that's the SOF community. They're worth millions of funding, and we got a lot of assets invested in those guys.
You'd think that once you have the military, in one sense, would help with this, with the momentum and the other categories, which would be law enforcement, which is different than military.
Oh yeah, and I'm so excited about the law enforcement.
Tell me about the law enforcement part, because we went to the big head to the little consumer version. What do you see for like law enforcement?
Well, I see a very capable, safe highway patrolman who, when he gets out of his car and he puts on his hat with this device,
or she,
thank you, very good. Thank you.
There are some very fine women police officers around, and to be able to have that vision, the data. Tell me about the data, because now you're able to, because cops now might not want to wear. It's like they have to wear this camera on them that protects who?
Well, you typically. The assailant.
So that the cops are like, look, we didn't do anything wrong, and let's see the but this is different now. This is for,
these are body cameras that actually are for the safety of that officer.
Yeah.
They make him more connected and safer. So if this highway patrolman, he or she, were to get out of this vehicle, there's cars ripping by, it could be nighttime. When he or she puts on this device, they'll be able to see these lights or obstructions in real time from behind them, and be able to get out of the way if necessary. Heaven forbid they do happen to get hit. We can always collect that data because it's constantly.
Just imagine being you're by yourself. You did a traffic cop stop of some sort, whatever, and now you're dealing with this, and a crowd builds around, and you don't. Now, if you turn around, I mean, that guy could come at you.
Turn your back on him.
Turn your back on him.
Well, and furthermore, though, the law enforcement version will have a forward-facing camera with a QR reader. So as he gets out and he puts on his helmet, he or she, they can see the upcoming obstructions from behind in real time, and always collecting data, mind you. As they look forward, they've scanned the vehicle description, they've gotten the license plate as they walk to just like into RoboCop all the time. Yeah. But let's get this to these guys, because this is an advanced body camera system. So when they get to the drivers, they'll look at the driver, say, ma'am, let me have or sir, let me have your ID. They've already taken the picture. They flip the ID over. They all have barcodes on the back of your IDs. We scan that. We get all your driver information.
He or she is doing that on the side of a highway, and they're facing this way. While they're doing that, they can also see if there's a car that they can move out of. Because
absolutely,
the whole law now is if you're in the same lane as somebody who's pulled over, you have to go half the speed limit or change lanes because of the safety.
Absolutely, and there's situations where that still can't be done.
I never even thought about that.
In this case, though, this officer will be able to be hands-free collecting data. That person, if they took off, go.
Wow, because
we'll get you down the road.
Because we've got
all your information.
If it got license plate, we've got make and model of the car, all of it.
Every bit of it. And again, in the unlikely or unfortunate event that something happens to that officer, we collect that data.
So is this a streaming?
It'll be docked at the car in a secured service. Again, I'm not the software engineer.
Sure, right.
I've met with body camera manufacturers, and we've talked about the software capabilities. There's been
a
huge,
probably for consumer app. But military would be like command center, maybe, and or in the vehicle. But then now police would be in their car. There'd be some sort of.
So they have a secured data cache where they keep their data. So it cannot be manipulated. It's hard recorded. But again, later they'll dock it when they go in, similar to how they do body cameras today. It's the body camera of the future.
It really is.
It's
Because
the body camera
what
of
came
the
to mind
future.
was RoboCop. Because
Sure.
when you said what that, and even Terminator, because you know you would see and they go this
Yeah.
male, you know, age this, and over there you saw all this, the weapons, and now
That's right.
they're able to make that decision. Now this is just video
Oh, yeah.
that they're able to see at this point. But when you integrate the technology, what else could be put there? What else?
Right.
Augmented reality or facial recognition or
Well, we
heat mapping.
We talk a lot about this officer or military personnel getting out of the way of an unlikely event to happen, but we haven't really mentioned how we increase their lethality by the time that they can make a decision. Should I pull my firearm, turn around, defend myself, or how do I handle the situation? That's never been available to him before.
That's true.
So not only is he more safe, but he's also more lethal. You've hyper-enabled him.
Yeah.
You know
Well,
what I'm
I'm trying the scenario I'm thinking of, if I know that there's no threat behind me,
Yeah.
I don't have to even take my focus off of what's in front of me.
Again, I love the fact that this technology is being developed by end user communities. So we met with a Kansas City fire chief. They wrote us a fantastic letter of support because this blew my mind. He said, I would love for our EMT and emergency responders to have this. Nobody's ever thought of this.
Now, I don't even know. Tell me
because
how.
he said, when we go into dangerous neighborhoods and we have to get a gunshot victim, he said, it's such a violent atmosphere. They don't feel safe. And they're trying to perform triage or help this victim while constantly worrying about what's going on behind him because families are in an uproar and blah, blah, blah. He had envisioned that this technology would help lower the anxieties and keep them focused on their job, which provides safety for them and the person on the ground. Fire. For firemen, when you hear stuff crashing and stuff and falling, or if they can't communicate and they've lost contact in a building, you know, there is so many user case scenarios.
But your mind starts to kind of go crazy thinking of
tow truck drivers, prison workers.
Workers.
These guys are in these X houses, one guy against 150 felons. How much would it cost to increase the safety? Probably not a whole lot. You know, these guys, again, when I use the term force multiplier, you got to really think about what we're offering here. He's doing two different things from one position. That's never been capable. We're just adding capabilities, and we're not doing it by putting pounds on you.
No, I mean, if you're going to be wearing it's all the version that you're going to have for consumers are going to be lightweight. Now, since this is all prototype, we did talk about you had this connected to was it like a tablet, and that provided you what was it?
Right. What it did is provided. There is power to the camera.
It's a prototype, so it power, but
it provided power to the eyepiece, but it also transmitted the Wi-Fi signal. So the camera's Wi-Fi to the tablet.
Got it.
And we USB.
So you're simulating that whole receiver transmitter type of.
And imagine in the future that tablet will be gone and it'll have a little PCB part circuit board somewhere in the system. So we're very early stage, and it's really been me going around trying to find components that I can Frankenstein without being an engineer to use to illustrate what we're doing to get to the point where we got funded like we did from the Department of Defense. So now we have this non-dilutive funding, and phase 2 is real dollars to go out and start building it the way these guys asked for it. So what I do is I fall back on all my debriefing notes from these events, and we go hand it to the engineers and say, this is what they want.
Okay.
Now you've developed it specifically to cater to those end user needs.
Yeah.
Aircraft carrier for flight deck safety. That version will be small and lightweight, and it'll fit on their helmets. The guys who bring in planes and load bombs, they don't need to be getting sucked up in jet engines. It happens. They don't need to have man overboard. It happens. You know, we envision for the Navy, it would have little different features for flight deck safety than it will for the special operations guys.
You'd almost could see there's different versions of the application. This is the military version, and then that has its own little.
Certainly, it's not one size fits all.
No, it's not.
Imagine way down out in the future, a law enforcement or a member of Interpol or the Fed would have a pair of wayfarers where they were in a diner doing surveillance as we're having dinner, but watching everything and recording it behind me. I was very fortunate to get recognized through my socialization with these DoD events.
Sure.
And I got called down to do some demonstrations for a Tech Warrior program through Air Force at Wright-Patterson. And that was fantastic. This is an opportunity for me now to take my devices from sitting on a table and have these guys go try them on and put them through different scenarios, which you might see some clips of that. And they took to it very well. They really liked it. They started just doing all their other tasks and keeping it on throughout the day. So it was amazing. It was a unique opportunity for me to get that. Shout out to John Matagi, Dan, and all the guys, Tim Andrew, all the guys at Tech Warrior program. They really saw what the technology could do. They provided an atmosphere to get us attention. And then they blew my mind with that video. We took advantage of that video and pitched it out, got even more attention. Well, we're here now talking to you. So we're under contract now, finally, from the Department of Defense.
So the exciting thing is that if those of you who have not seen the first Business Upfront podcast, we interviewed Michael Morford, and he has some technology that he is using with the government. And so he probably has a good resource for you of like understanding how to get buy-in from the government.
I'll say this about those guys, the Morford, the brother, I call them the brothers Morford. I was fortunate to get this contract, to get the funding, but I would have failed it had it not been for these guys. These guys are what I consider to be, and what I believe a lot of people consider to be badasses at what they do. These guys are the best of the best. I really click pretty well with them, and I respect and I'm very fortunate to work with them.
For Michael to come to me and say, I think I got something for you.
He's awesome.
And he's just the funniest guy. I mean, he's so funny.
He's smart though, man.
So that's what, like, you can't be that laid back and telling fart jokes and talking about things that are like your teenager would go, Dad, and then all of a sudden laser focus into some really
because he'd done it 10 times before he got in the room in his own head, probably. He's just that smart.
But he gives you that eye contact, you know what I mean? With the freaking blue eyes of his, at you, and you're like, you just know this guy's got it going on.
And I'm looking at these guys at events and I'm standing in the room with them. I'm thinking, I want to be like those guys,
right?
Or I want to at least be able to align with them. I remember bumping into them in the hallway one time, and I didn't know what the hell I was going to ask.
They're like, "I'm not worthy."
But I was like, "Can we work together somehow?" They're like, "We'll talk later." They're good at what they do. They're successful, and they're well respected in the area. Yeah. So in this ecosystem, you had better develop relationships, and you better be true to who you are, and don't blow smoke up people's ass.
Well, I love watching Shark Tank. Right?
Yeah, I don't watch it much.
Okay, and that's probably good for you.
I don't want to watch it.
Right?
I don't even want to watch it.
Because you've got your this is
I don't even want to hear it.
Right. But what I do like is I always root for the underdog. I always go, wow, oh my God, that's a genius idea. And when they get some guy up there, all I know is I had this idea.
Yeah.
I don't know. I know I need help.
Yeah.
That's why I'm here today.
Right.
That's kind of your story, but you didn't know way of like.
Yeah. 100%. I'm not a manufacturer.
Right, you're a manufacturer.
I'm not an engineer.
I'm sure you're a tech whiz.
I can't even email you.
I will tell you, Tom, I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
When you introduced this to us today, I was excited. My whole team was excited. We're excited about working with you on getting eyeballs on this.
I appreciate it.
And getting you in the position where you can move on forward to the next phase. And I can guarantee you guys, be on the lookout for Tom Yoakum with this technology, with ICU 360. Tom, thanks for being here today.
Very much a pleasure. Thank you.
We'll see you guys on the next one.